Welcome everybody. Oh well, that was a good start to the episode. Welcome everybody. Souldin of the Grin brothers here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time. Before I even begin to introduce my tea, I just wish to wish you all a happy new year. Hope 2016 is a good year for you all, and I'm hoping it'll be a good year for Grin brothers. 2015, I originally set my New Year's resolution to be to try and get 100 subscribers. That's clearly failed, but there's always this year. Okie dokie then. Today's tea is, I was originally going to have a new tea I got for Christmas, which I've got tea leaves for, and a tea leaf making, basically a set to brew for tea leaves. But didn't prepare myself in time to when I wanted to record this, and so I just grabbed a last of my pucker lemon and mandarin with lemon verbena tea. It's a joyfully uplifting organic super fruity tea. I'll probably only have the lemon and mandarin on screen because, otherwise it's going to take up a lot of room. Now then, I've been waiting to do this video for quite a while because I've decided, unlike seemingly everyone else throughout the year, I was going to save my video on my favourite games of 2016 not 2016, my favourite games of 2015 for when 2015 had actually ended. So I actually took into account all of the days I could. And so this has led me to creating this video on New Year's Day, the very start of 2016. Now that 2015 is over, I can look back on 2015 and consider what games were my favourite amongst all the games I've played throughout 2015. So this is Souldin's 6 favourite video games of 2016. I'll probably have that shown to Souldin's 6 favourite games of 2016. No need to add the video part. I mean, how many people actually say video games now? Usually it's just games to refer to it, at least from where I am. In any case, I'm just going to quickly go over the 18 games that released this year that I have actually played. I'm not counting any games that released prior years. However, I am basing my what counts as a 2015 game purely off of whether it released in the UK/EU within that year. So for instance, if it came out in Japan or America before, or isn't out in Japan or America yet, doesn't matter so long as it was a UK/EU game of 2015. The games that I have played, I've played 18 games, and I'm just going to quickly go through all of them. These are the games I've played this year. Well, sorry, last year now, isn't it? Because it's 2016 already. Yeah. Art Academy Atelier, BlazBlue Chrono Phantasm, Box Boy, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which I will note came out, its official release date was the 2nd of January. That's why it's on this list. Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, Fossil Fighters Frontier, Hatsune Miku Project Mirai DX, Legend of K Anniversary, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, Nihilumbra, Ori in the Blind Forest, Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater, Rodeo the Sky Soldier for the Nintendo Wii, Rodeo the Sky Soldier for the Nintendo Wii U, they play quite a bit differently, Rogue Legacy, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. It was a late release for EU. Last year it came out for the Americans. Yeah, you know what I mean. Splatoon. And Yoshi's Woolly World. Or Woolly World. Woolly World is more of an in-joke. Anyone who's seen, Nintendo of Europe's... head of Nintendo of Europe announce or mention Yoshi's Woolly World will understand the Woolly joke. So then, those are the games I've played this year. And out of them, I'm going to announce my top 6 favourite games that I've played this year. It's funny because initially it wasn't originally going to be a top 6. Like, I've done this thing for last year. I did it for 2014. That only became a top 6 because I couldn't decide between 2 games as to whether they should be 5th. I think it was Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Sunset Overdrive. So I ended up making it 6 games featured in the list. Now I'm just going to have 6 games because 6 is my favourite number. So, number 6, my 6th most favourite game of 2015. Rogue Legacy for the Xbox One. Now, if this was actually a pretty close one. There was another game that I've played it's actually another indie game as well, that I've played that I was in a constant struggle as to which I preferred. In the end, I went with Rogue Legacy because it's more suited to me. It's a more action-based game. Yeah, which is more up my alley than the other game. Rogue Legacy is, well, it's a roguelike game where you constantly have to go through a castle which changes each time, unless you do certain things which stops it from changing each time. And basically you're going to die a lot. Your character goes in, you try to do as well as you can, try to get as much money and items and beat as many bosses and enemies, but you'll eventually die. And then you'll be able to actually upgrade things so that your next character has a better chance. And it's a really fun game. It can be hard at times, but it's purposely hard because, you're supposed to die in a sense. You're supposed to die because you're supposed to see how well you can do in order to actually improve your next person, who is your descendant. And it's a long line of descendants going through this castle. And it's a really fun game, controls wonderfully, and has a great variety of sort of characters and what descendants you have and what their sort of capabilities are. And it's a real fun experience each time you go through. And sometimes you can sort of try to stick with descendants that are more along your line capabilities. I usually stuck with paladins and barbarians or the leeches. But if you want to sort of experiment with something different, sometimes you'd get the mages, which I'd just use to simply differ things up. Or maybe there's a certain area that I figured that using this mage would be better and such. And Rogue Legacy is just a really fun game with a somewhat addictive gameplay. It always has something that makes it feel fresh. You keep playing it and it always feels new in a sense. And yet at the same time familiar. It's just a really enjoyable game, and that's why it's number 6, my 6th favourite game of 2015. I'm so glad I said 2015 at that time because I keep thinking I'm going to mess up and say 2016. Don't be surprised if that happens. Moving on then. Number 5, my 5th favourite game of 2015. Hatsune Miku Project Mirai DX for the Nintendo 3DS. Funny enough, this was actually my 6th most anticipated game of 2015. Not so funnily enough, I'm not even sure if that's a word. You can have a go at me if that isn't. I almost missed out on getting this game because I usually shop at Game because I like buying from a physical store, and like buying everything physically. I almost missed out on this game though, Hatsune Miku Project Mirai DX, because Game wasn't selling it in stores. My HMV wasn't selling it, and none of the sort of Tesco's or Morrison's or any of the places really. Nowhere was selling the game physically. I had to actually get it from Amazon, and I'm not a big fan of buying off online. And it took a long while for it to actually come. Amazon were very helpful with it and all. They gave me updates on it, but it took a long while for it to come. And I could have actually missed out on playing it. I think I only got it around late November. Yeah, but I am so glad I did get this game. They finally actually arrived, and I can treat it as a 2015 game because it has been a wonderful game. It's I'm a fan of Vocaloid music and the characters, and I became quite a fan of the games when I ended up picking up Project Diva 2nd for the PSP when I visited Japan. Of course, the language barrier is a bit of a problem, so it's really nice to actually being able to play the sort of Hatsune Miku games in English and actually being able to understand what I'm doing half the time. The sort of sim-based aspect of it is cute and charming. The graphics, although I would have preferred the characters to be, you know, their regular Vocaloid forms, are sort of cute and adorable, and, you know, there's lots of things to do. There's lots of songs. A lot of them are really enjoyable. I tend to prefer the faster tempo songs. You know, I feel my rhythm gets thrown off with the slower tempoed ones. But outside of the rhythm stuff, with the sim aspects, you know, the clothes to buy, and as well as extra things like playing, I can't remember what it was. It's a board game, sort of like Chinese, no, not Chinese chess or something like that, or Go, maybe, I believe. I'll put it up on screen, but they have this board game that you can play with your choice of Vocaloid, and there's also a Puyo Puyo mini game in it as well, and there's a surprising amount of stuff to do. You know, it isn't just limited to the rhythm game aspect, though thankfully the rhythm game aspect is really cool, and I'm a big fan of the touch rhythm aspect. It feels really unique, taking advantage of the 3DS hardware, and getting onto my only complaint of the game, the tap aspect is a really big highlight for me because the burn aspect isn't quite as enjoyable as it was on the PSP. My one criticism for the game, which is why Hatsune Miku Project Mirai DX is only my 5th favourite game, despite how much I've been loving it, is to do with the fact that the 3DS is rather small. My hands keep cramping as I try to press the buttons. The buttons just feel too close together. It doesn't feel as comfortable as with the PSP. With the PSP, I thought the buttons were, it felt more comfortable, and my hands keep cramping up with the 3DS. My hands cramped up with the PSP after a while, playing through, fast-paced rhythm game. But with the 3DS, it's like, I can only do like 2 to 3 songs, and then it's like, my hand's no good. So the the sort of touch mode, the tap mode, is a really welcome addition, given the regular 3DS is just too small for me, frankly. Maybe I should consider getting a 3DS XL or a new 3DS XL, but I got a 3DS really early. I mean, I was part of the Ambassador program, so. But aside from that complaint, Hatsune Miku Project Mirai DX is an absolutely wonderful game, just absolutely filled with content. It's amazing how much stuff has been crammed into it. So there's plenty to do if you ever want a distraction from its rhythm game component, but luckily that is really good, and there's a lot of repetition for it because you've got both the button mode and the tap mode, as well as varying difficulties, as well as varying Vocaloids to play through each of the songs with. I, of course, mostly stick with Miku because my favourite Vocaloid, it's not a surprising choice, but Moving on then, wow, I can't believe I'm this far in, and I'm only on to number 4. This might be a long one, folks. Number 4, my 4th most favourite game. What did I say? My 4th favourite game of 2015. Dead or Alive 5 Last Round for the Xbox One. I'm a big fan of the Dead or Alive games, and yeah, I never really got to properly experience Dead or Alive 5. I got on the PS3 because I considered, well, if I wanted to play online, that had, free online back then, of course. So I got it on the PS3, but I never really got around to playing it because they announced an update fairly soon after I actually got around to playing Dead or Alive 5. So it's not been until this Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, which has been confirmed to be the last version of Dead or Alive 5, that I've actually got to properly sit down and play the Dead or Alive 5 entries. I'm really glad I did, though, because it's a ton of fun, and I'm really glad I played it through the Xbox One because experiencing Dead or Alive 4 through the Xbox 360, I'm more used to that sort of control scheme for Dead or Alive 5. Well, so for the Dead or Alive games I've played. Of course, I've also played DOA Dimensions as well on the 3DS, which is completely different, but that's another topic altogether. But Dead or Alive 5 Last Round is really fun. The gameplay is polished and as smooth as ever, and is wonderfully fast-paced. The thing I like about Dead or Alive games is that the fighting is simple, yet filled with depth. It's easy to pick up, and yet there's so much cool stuff you can do. It can get a bit frustrating at times. It's really hard to practice countering when my only opponents are, CPU. But it's, the gameplay is really good. There's a good variety of costumes for each of the characters. A little bit annoying how many of them are DLC, but there's a good selection on offer. Always love the Halloween ones, by the way. The Halloween ones are amazing costumes each year, simply because they release it for all the characters. And there's a lot to do in Dead or Alive 5 Last Round. Like, outside of the, I end up playing most of these fighting games on my own, which is not usually what you do with a fighting game, but not many, aside from, say, Super Smash Brothers, not many people play the fighting games with me, but Dead or Alive 5 Last Round offers plenty to do in a single-player capacity. There's a story mode. It's not an amazing story, but I don't expect it to be an amazing story from Dead or Alive, but it works. It's cheesy, it doesn't take itself too seriously while also taking itself seriously in an almost hammy kind of way. There's a certain enjoyment to seeing all the characters interacting when they've, by this point in the 5th game, majority of them all know each other. And it adds a really enjoyable aspect to it in terms of character interaction, which I always like as a story element. And like I said, there's a lot to do. There's the story mode, arcade mode with tons of difficulties, tag team, team battle, survival, and I think time attack? Yeah, I believe that as well. Time attack as well. There's just tons to do in a single player capacity. I've yet to try and go online yet, but I hope to consider it one day. I'm probably gonna get thrashed. I used to main Elliot, but I feel he's gone harder in Dead or Alive 5, so I'm sticking with Hitomi because I'm able to use her naturally easier. But I would like to actually be somewhat good, better with Elliot. But if I go online, it's probably going to be as Hitomi just so I can survive. In any case, Dead or Alive 5 Last Round is my 4th choice. Now then, I'm not sure why I paused for that long. My 3rd favourite game of 2015. And interesting little thing about this is the top 3 games I've actually been in a huge struggle with on deciding upon. They've been battling out. These 3 games were so close this year in terms of how much I've enjoyed them. Before I move on to number 3, I am just going to have a sip of my tea. I'm having it this early. Oh, that has such a nice lemon kick to it. Fruity kick, yeah. Lemon and mandarin is a lovely tea. I absolutely love it. I'm not even having it with milk. That's how much I like this tea. I usually have most of my teas with milk, but this one I just absolutely love. I say, having it early, but yet it's like 17 minutes into the video, so... Okay then. My 3rd favourite game of 2015 is Ori and the Blind Forest for the Xbox One. Now, those of you who actually watched each of the Tea Times, which is probably none of you, because I think there's only like 1 view on most of the Tea Time videos. Anyways, those of you who've seen some of my previous Tea Time videos might know that Ori and the Blind Forest was my most anticipated game for this year. Sorry, no, for last year, 2015. Yeah, I keep forgetting that we're in 2016 now. Ori and the Blind Forest was my most anticipated game of 2015. It was also the biggest reason as to why I got an Xbox One, despite how it also came out on PC and is apparently getting a port to Xbox 360 at some point. Anyways, Ori and the Blind Forest was the reason I wanted an Xbox One most of all. And it was also the game that made me consider Microsoft the winner of E3 2014. If you actually consider them to be winners. I felt they had the best presentation, and Ori and the Blind Forest was a big reason to it. The impact that game had through how they showed it off at the beginning was just incredible. It was so incredible that eventually we did a whole playthrough of Ori and the Blind Forest. Yeah, there's a whole Grin Brothers playthrough of Ori and the Blind Forest. I played through the game, completed it. Well, I'm partway through this playthrough. I completed Ori and the Blind Forest, and I had Rafi play through Ori and the Blind Forest. So there's actually a whole playthrough of that. It's a very interesting thing. I think Rafi generally considers it to be one of our better playthroughs, simply because I'm there having the experience of having already gone through the game. So there's like a guiding hand, but there's also a humour to the fact that I'm a guiding hand and how he doesn't listen to me and how my instructions actually go terribly wrong for him. But yeah, maybe if, if I figure out annotations, I'll have a link pop up on screen. But yeah, we've done a playthrough of Ori and the Blind Forest. It is an amazing game. And this is not just in an artistic sense. Like, I'm so glad it won at the Video Game Awards this year. Last year. I'm so glad Ori and the Blind Forest won for Best Art Direction, because it is an absolutely beautiful game with a wonderful graphical style that is totally deserving of Best Art Direction. It's got great music that fits the sort of tone and atmosphere of each scene, and a story that packs a surprising amount of punch. Okay, not too surprising. Anyone who's seen its trailer would know that it's going to pack a punch. But it's like Up. In the first 5 minutes, you're probably going to be crying. It's very effective in delivering a emotional hit to you. But what is truly incredible is just how good the gameplay is. It's a Metroidvania game with absolutely incredible action. Okay, maybe a little over top on that. You're frail. Ori is very frail. Ori will get killed easy. So it adds a bit of difficulty in it. The platforming can be quite tough at times. It can be quite savage at times. You're going to die a lot. They have a death meter just to show you how many times you're going to die. But it never feels unfair. At least I've never felt so. It's, you know, rather challenging, but never frustrating. It's got a pretty decent combat system, wherein Ori feels weak, but even as you've sort of leveled up, Ori still feels like it's a challenge to take on opponents, but at the same time you do feel stronger in a sense. And the action has a kind of like hit and run sort of manner to it, wherein you can't get too close because you're not very good in close combat, but you need to be close enough to hit, and you sort of like, you know, using a platforming to keep away from the enemy whilst hitting it, and it's just got a wonderful sort of combination to it. Ori and the Blind Forest is an amazing game for its graphics, its sound, and its story, and its characters. But what really helps it is that even with all these amazing things, it still has as its core amazing gameplay. And, you know, that is one of the key things that truly matters about a video game. It's the defining aspect of a video game, of what makes a video game different from other mediums. So it's really good that they got that part done ever so well. And I've just praised Ori and the Blind Forest for the Xbox One an absolute lot. At the moment, it's currently my favourite game on the Xbox One. Ori and the Blind Forest is the big Xbox One game for me. It's one of the first things I'd recommend to you people. If you had an Xbox One, because it controls wonderfully on the system. I'm not sure how it is on PC. I'm not a PC gamer, so. But you've just heard me sing praises of Ori and the Blind Forest, the game that was my most anticipated game of 2015. So that just kind of says how good these next two games are going to be. Number 2, my second favourite game of the year, and this was really close with Ori. I was constantly switching these back and forth over and over again. I was switching the first, number 1 at times with this second one as well. And I'm quite surprised that this actually wasn't my number 1 favourite game of the year. It's quite surprising how this has all turned out. But my second favourite game of 2015... Sorry, 2015. I knew I'd make that mistake at some point. I knew it. I called it. My second favourite game of 2015 is Splatoon for Wii U. You're a kid now. You're a squid now. That is one really good advert. Splatoon is colourful. It's vibrant. It's charming and filled to the brim with personality, despite the lack of a main protagonist, oddly enough. And it's, you know, got a wonderful tone to it. I mean, it's rather 90s in a sense, and as a 90s kid, technically, more of a late 90s, because, you know, I was born, you know, fairly early on into the 90s, but I wouldn't have actually had, you know, you don't have much memories of when you're like 2. In any case, as it evokes a lot of the 90s, like my childhood in a sense. It evokes colour and enthusiasm. There's an energy to it. There's a liveliness to it as you sort of start off in the plaza and you got all the sort of online people with their Miiverse posts. And then you get to its gameplay, which is amazing at that. I'm not a big fan of shooters, but for a third-person shooter, it's got really unique gameplay ideas, a really nice selection of weapons, a really nice format of where it started off with not much content, but it's slowly over time built itself up through free sort of DLC updates that have kept me coming back to it over and over again because I know there's something new each time, and it's all free. And another factor as to why I keep coming back is the gameplay's addictive. Like, you do a few online matches of Splatoon, and you just want to keep playing over and over again. It has a Super Smash Bros. Level of quality where you don't want to put the controller down. And it's really fun. It can be really frustrating in carrying tough opponents, but I'm always wanting to keep on playing when I do so. And when I've played it for a while, I think, I haven't played it in a while. I want to pick it back up and keep playing sort of each time. It's incredibly addictive, as I said. It's fun, it's charming, and the story mode is pretty wonderful. It, has some nice platforming elements and a fantastic final boss battle. Like, I heard people praise that final boss battle, but my gosh, it was up to all the praise that people have said about it. It is an incredible final boss battle. The music is really nice. The Squid Sisters as hosts, Callie and Mary, it's a wonderful sort of feel to the game. The game oozes charm. It oozes personality. And at its core, it's got great gameplay elements to it. The stages are really nice. The weapons are nice and diversified. And, you find out what you sort of use. I use, I think it's the standard roller. I just use the standard roller. Less because of the roller, more because I really like the sub-weapon, the sort of sticky bombs. I'm a big fan of using sticky bombs. Many people, for instance, in tower control mode, sort of like, seem to scoff at the idea of using a roller, but those sticky bombs are surprisingly useful in tower control. Anyway, Splatoon for Wii U is my second favourite game of 2015. Before I go on to my number one favourite game of 2015, which some of you, if you've sort of seen my Miiverse posts, I'm not sure I've ever linked anyone to my Miiverse. Again, I haven't linked anyone to anything really. Might know what this is. But before I begin, I just want to mention, some special mentions. I want to mention 3 games that were really close to making it onto my top 6 list. In a unspecific order, these games are Nihilumbra, BlazBlue Chronophantasma, or Phantasm, and Fossil Fighters Frontier. These games were really great experiences that I'm really glad to have. Nihilumbra was incredible, and it's been a game I've been looking forward to for a long time, but it kept getting delayed for Wii U release. But I'm really glad I got to play it. BlazBlue Chronophantasm has been an incredible game that I bought for Rafi's Christmas present. And it's a BlazBlue game. I love the BlazBlue fighting games, and they're really fun, full of story and everything, and really good. And then there was, of course, Fossil Fighters Frontier, which was rather surprising how much I've come to enjoy that game. It came at the right time when I was feeling a bit worn out with Pokemon, and it offered a experience that's like Pokemon, but different and unique enough to stand on its own legs. Now then, what you've all been waiting for, my number one favourite game of 2015. Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater for Wii U. I would have never have predicted that this game would become my favourite game of 2015. It wasn't on my list of top 6 most anticipated games for 2015. It was something I was barely even considering as, to actually play it. I consider it in the, if it comes out, I'll pick it up. After all, I've been wanting to try a lot of other Koei Temco games ever since I got into the Dead or Alive series. And Hyrule Warriors were fun, so if it comes out, I'll pick it up. But I never would have thought that this would be my favourite experience of 2015. I have had an absolute blast playing through Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater. This is pretty much my first horror experience in terms of horror gaming. I've had the, small experience with some horror games, but I've never fully completed a horror game. This was the first game that I've completed. I'd spend, several nights I've been playing through this game. I'd never really played it in day. I'd stay up until around 10, sometimes 11, and begin a chapter of this game. And oh my gosh, I didn't need to do that at night because this game has made it very uncomfortable trying to get to bed each night. Because I have to walk through all the dark hallways trying to turn on the lights, all the way upstairs to bed. And I've been absolutely terrified along the way. Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater is a game that's beautiful. Graphically, I love the way it looks. It's a game that's got characters I really enjoy. Like, Ren, I really enjoy. I enjoy most of the characters. Ren, I really, really like Ren. He's an absolutely amazing protagonist. But, one of the main protagonists. I guess I pretty much like all the characters, really. You know, there's a nice diversity of the sort of antagonists, nice to go up against. The protagonists, I felt for each of these characters, and I wanted to save them when various of them were in trouble. I wanted to keep them alive from the horrors that were befalling the sort of Mount Kikame and all that. And Yuri, the main character of the game, might be probably one of my favourite female characters of all time. I absolutely love Yuri. She's an amazing character, in my opinion. She's kind of gone through a character development before the game's even begun, in a sense. You kind of see how she's progressed as a character through flashbacks, which is rather interesting. But she's got a great design, a great personality, in my opinion. You know, she's rather timid and scared in a sense, but she's never let that stop her in this point. And you get to see how she developed to be that sort of point and why she's going to such lengths during the story. And it's great. She's just a wonderful character. Gameplay, the horror is tense as heck. Like, I was constantly fearful every time I reached out for an item. That was a brilliant mechanic, whoever thought of that. Some reviewers said that the water mechanic, when you're wet, it doesn't work. But no, I disagree. When my characters were soaking wet, the ghosts came out like tons and tons of them were popping up far more frequently. I mainly spend a lot of time looking about for loot because I really like lore, and it's nice to sort of find it scattered about the place. But my gosh, it is absolutely terrifying going up against some of those, when you're wet during a level, because the ghosts, when they appear, they just come in hordes or just frequently. Rain became terrifying, and I love rain. And the gamepad combat. The gamepad combat is absolutely amazing. I really love its usage of the gamepad. I'm a big fan of the Wii U gamepad overall, but this game puts it to amazing use. The combat works ever so smoothly, and thanks to the fact that I have a swivel chair, turning around was a piece of cake. You know, it was really easy sort of managing to hit the ghosts. Of course, it was not all sort of easy. I mean, I do think if there was a criticism I have with the game is that it can be a bit too easy. They give you an awful lot of items. But there are difficulties, notably when they have you in rather cramped areas from time to time. And of course, like I said, when your character's wet, the ghosts are just a nightmare because they're so frequent. But using my swivel chair, I was able to maneuver the gamepad, sort of get camera about really easily. As I said, it's beautiful graphically. Water is always a good showcase for graphics. There's a nice variety of enemy sort of ghosts and ghosts who appear rather infrequently, but are memorable when they appear and offer a decent challenge. The story is great, the characters are great, the experience was just phenomenal for me. It was terrifying. I mean, I'm not quite sure I understand people who, play horror games so frequently. It's like, this feeling of dread, why do you people want to have this feeling? But in terms of its fun factor, I still managed to, despite it being a horror game, despite being a genre that I'm never really sort of gotten used to, and I don't think I'm too keen to try too many others out. I may try some, but for a genre that I'm probably not personally suited to, it is just been an incredible game for me. It is, despite this handicap, as it were, of being something that I'm not used to, of being something that I didn't think would appeal to me, it has appealed to me so much. It has just been fun from start to finish. And all those nights staying awake to play this game have totally been worth it because it's just been so enjoyable. I'm rambling. I'm not sure what to really say. I just absolutely loved playing Project Zero Maiden of Blackwater. It's why it's my favourite game of 2015. It's easily amongst my favourite Wii U games. I think in terms of retail games, it might be my favourite game of all. Maybe my second. I mean, again, I live in the UK, so I luckily have a retail copy. I got the special edition because I prefer physical copies. And I'm so glad I got the special edition because I love this game and I'm really glad to have that special edition. I've got to put that poster up at some point. So then, those are my choices for my top 6 favourite games of 2015. 2015 has had some low sort of points for me, but it's also had 6 absolutely amazing games. Well, more than 6, at least. I'd say a good 10 incredible experiences, I'd say. And some pretty decent experiences outside of that sort of 10 games I really enjoyed. And of course, those top 6 games I've mentioned, they have just been absolutely incredible. So then, if you'd like to comment on my top 6 favourite games of 2015, feel free to. If you wish to mention your own top 6 or top 5 or top however many favourite games of 2015, feel free to mention them as well. I'd love to hear any sort of opinions you have of what games you've enjoyed last year. Because it is last year now. Well, this video is stretched on for a really long time, so I hope it's not too much of a problem for you that it's such a long video. Well then, cheerio, and I hope you enjoyed.